Hey, welcome everyone to the CEWT podcast. That's CEWT, Continuing Education and Workforce Training. Thank you for joining us. I'm Gary Salazar, Director of Continuing Education and Workforce Training, CEWT. We work within the College of Technology and provide non-credit educational classes and workforce training for our community. This podcast is one of CEWT's efforts to outreach and share interesting conversations and stories with our community. These will be on entrepreneurship, on health, and other general areas of interest. We hope you find something within them that will help each of you enrich your life. Our format will be conversational. Focus will be on the topic and on 20 minutes with our guests. So the clock started when I said welcome. We hope that after 20 minutes, no matter what, we're going to be doing a wrap-up. So please stay with us and let's get started. Today's guest joining us on our conversation is Jason Batalden. Jason is the Assistant Director at CEWT, and we'll be talking with Jason about the origin of this podcast, how it got started, maybe some of the challenges and how we're going to move it forward. So, Jason, thank you very much for joining us. Glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. This is kind of exciting to get this thing started.
Yes.
Our first podcast.
The first podcast.
Yeah.
And this is great. So we're going to make a few mistakes, but we'll get past them and we'll move and make this better every time we do this.
Yeah.
I have a few questions for you to get started.
All right, let's get it going.
All right. This is a podcast idea, and this was your brainchild. So how did this get started with you?
Yeah. Well, mainly because I like listening to podcasts. And podcasts are getting more popular. Podcasts are essentially, if you think about it, podcasts aren't original. I mean, people have been sitting around and telling each other stories since the beginning of time. So, all this great technology we have and all the ability to communicate the message and the wonderful things we do at our program at CEWT, what better way really is to sit down with somebody and have that conversation about what's going on, what they're doing, why they're doing it, what we're doing, how we can help. Really this is, if you think about it, the simplest and most basic way to communicate with one another and telling each other stories and conversations. So
that's right.
So there's nothing original to my idea, or this idea. I should definitely want to say it that way because there's nothing original. It's just, I think it's a neat way to do it. So.
And thank you for bringing it up. So as you got a little bit of experience with podcasts, there's probably a few others out there that you've enjoyed.
Yeah.
What is it that you like out there? What kind of podcasts are hot for you right now?
Well, I got started, I'm late to the game on podcasts, and I'm definitely not a podcast expert. What turned me on to podcasts were people who I know were telling me about podcasts, and they tell me these wonderful stories they'd hear. The podcast, The Serial, is a fantastic podcast. And then I actually got turned on to a podcast that was titled S-Town, and I think it was through NPR Radio Lab, I think, which was a fantastic 6-part, 8-part podcast. It was just wonderful. And then my wife and I listened to that, and we totally got hooked. And then we were stumbling around on podcasts, and my wife and I are Game of Thrones fans, and so we stumbled on this podcast called Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a group of people sitting around a room talking about Game of Thrones, and we suddenly felt better about ourselves because we realized we weren't the most, there were people out there who were much more crazy about the show than we were. So, so we get hooked. Our podcasts are, we listen to podcasts on the road. We download podcasts, download them when, you just put them on your phone and listen to them when you can, and you find out, and then you find excuses to listen to them too. So, hey, you want to go on a road trip this weekend? Yeah, we can listen to that podcast on the way. So, yeah.
That is great.
Yeah.
That is great.
Do you podcast?
I do not. And honestly, this is my first podcast, so this is very interesting to me. I enjoy talking with people and, learning something about them. The podcast venue seems to me to be a very special way to learn something. And like you said, when you're driving down the road, you got nothing else to do, especially on a bit of a drive, and you do a commute, podcast seems like it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when I was a kid, the first car I bought was an '81 Ford Mustang, which is the ugly Mustangs. But you know what the number one reason why I bought that car?
Why is that?
Because of the stereo.
You had a nice
Yeah,
stereo.
right. You know, and now I'm driving around and I don't even turn the radio on my car because everything's on your phone. So it's funny, in all these years now, the stereo is the least important thing in the car anymore. But back when I was a kid, that was the most important.
Well, so today you can put that. Can't you hook up your cell phone to the speakers in your car?
Bluetooth and all that.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, so we're starting this podcast here. We're talking about how this idea got started. But if you look ahead, what would be in your mind the vision of where you'd like to see this go? What kind of an outcome would you like to see?
Well, you know, the main thing is I'd really love for our podcast to sort of kind of be the place where people turn into to hear what's going on in our community, you know, from entrepreneurs and some of the amazing things that are going on in Pocatello, some of the amazing things we do at CEWT, some of the different programs and things that we've got going. And the real cool thing about podcasts is that, and especially the format we got going where it's a 20-minute format, you know, the idea is, you know, we get these great conversations and people can, in a short amount of time, can learn what's happening in their community. We can highlight the successes that a lot of people are having, not only academically and through the different educational programs we offer, but just in business in general. You know, our neighbors, you know, our community neighbors with the things that they do and support. And so the idea would be is this would be a great place, I think, for people who are interested in what's going on in their community, not just, you know, like what's the big news today? Costco's coming to Idaho Falls, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, big deal, right? But on the flip side, you know, some of the things that doesn't get communicated that really has a positive impact in our community. So, you know, check out, you know, we want to be able to create content that people are interested in, that's entertaining, but most importantly, informational and encouraging and supporting, you know, what we do here.
That's great. That's great. So that would be a great foundation for setting up another venue of information to get to our community. But outside of this one, the first one, what kind of ideas for podcasts do you have looking forward?
Well, we got a couple guests lined up that we're excited about. So we have our emergency medicine conference that is being hosted or sponsored by Portneuf Medical Center. Is coming up in May, and we have an awesome keynote speaker with Dr. Allsweed. You know his official title a little better than I do.
He's a doctor of osteopathic medicine.
Okay.
Okay, and he's from Las Vegas, and he has a huge resume that shows all the different conferences that he's been a part of and the things that he started down there. But he's a superbly qualified person with mass casualty emergency medicine.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to getting him on the podcast.
And that's, I mean, what a great guest. I mean, official guest, right?
Yeah, he's our keynote speaker.
Yeah, right. On a podcast too, to get some information on that. And then I think our next guest is, or one of our other guests is actually Stephanie Pelagi from historic Old Town.
Old Town Pocatello,
Right.
and also I think part of the historic Old Time Foundation.
Old Town.
Old Town Foundation as well. So we're hoping to get her on a podcast and talk with her a little bit about what she sees as the future of the growth in Old Town.
Well, and you know, if you look at, I've been in Southeast Idaho for a long time, and I remember downtown Pocatello, 20 years ago, and a lot has happened down there in 20 years. So that's exciting to have her on and be able to talk about. And again, those are the things we want to highlight. People are making a difference in this community on many different levels and facets, and just the entrepreneurs, So that's the other thing, is we're just wanting to make sure we have these kind of conversations with people who are doing things in this community,
Great, that's awesome. So if we do a podcast like this and it gets recorded, where will somebody be finding these podcasts?
So we'll find them on our website, on our blog. Oh boy, then comes the test. cetrain.isu.edu.
You got that right.
And the blog. And so we'll do that hosted on our blog. And then also our podcasts are being filmed. So if you don't want to interact with us just over the sound waves, I guess, but you'd like to see maybe our guests and interact with us on a video level, we'll post these on our YouTube page, and so that'll be exciting too. But again, it's we'll start out first on our webpage, and on our blog, and that's where these things will be posted. You subscribe to our blog, and that way, as we put out new episodes, you'll get reminders of those episodes, and you can interact with us through that way.
Well, that's cool. That's very, very cool. So I just want to clarify, because I'm a little bit new at this too. If it's on our YouTube channel, how does somebody get to our YouTube channel if they're on our website? Is that a link that's
Yeah,
there?
so we'll, on all of, when we post our episodes for our podcast, you can choose to listen to it right there on the website. You can choose to download the audio version of the podcast, or you can click onto the link on the YouTube link too. So it'll all be right there. So you can download it on your phone, you can click over to it and watch it on YouTube, or you can listen to it right there on our website.
That's a cool way to do that. It gives a lot of variety of different things here. So we have a few more questions that I'd like to ask before we get to the end of our time here. But Jason, you came to us from Idaho Falls, okay? And in fact, you still live there.
I do.
And you make that commute, and then every day you go back. So I know when I used to make a large commute like that, at the end of the day, I'd be pretty tired. I'm just kind of zone out with some nice music and pay attention to the drive. But do you see podcasts like this being something that busy people at the end of the workday would also tune into when they drive back home if they've got to drive?
I think, well, I mean, if you kind of look at when people listen to podcasts, on the drive, at the gym, you know, doing chores at home, those other moments. So this would be the, you know, a 20-minute drive is perfect, you know. Sometimes you get into those long, meaty podcasts too, and, you know, we got to do other things. But I think the cool thing about our podcast is 20 minutes and we're done and we're cruising, and get the information out that way, and plus so you can listen to it and get on to the next thing. You know, so yeah, driving's a great way. At the gym's a great way, you know, when you're chunking away on that treadmill.
Or
what's the thing you do? You do the exercise to go do your climbing thing.
Oh yeah, just go into the gym somewhere and do a bunch of squats.
There
Put
you
on
go.
a set of headphones and listen to a podcast for 20 minutes.
That's right.
Ha! You'll know it's over.
That's right. And then when it's over, it's done, see?
It's a painful 20 minutes.
Yeah, I would say so. That's right.
Well, that's pretty good. That sounds good. All right, if somebody in our audience was watching this or listening to this podcast and they heard us talking about community, entrepreneurship, health, general interest to the community, and they had an idea for a potential podcast, you know, what would be a great way for them to reach out to us and let us know about it?
So, you know, obviously contact us on our website. You know, click on there, send us a question, or reach out to us when you go again to our website at cetrain.isu.edu. That would be the best way to do that. The other way would be to contact us on our phone number. And believe it or not, Gary, I don't have our phone number right here in front of me. Do you?
Our phone number. What is our phone number, Sammy? Do you know?
Does anybody know our phone number?
Paul, what is our phone number?
It is 208
208
282
282
3372.
3372. And that comes right into the continuing ed and workforce training offices.
That's right. So you can ask for Gary or Jason, or just say, hey, I got an idea for Sweet Talk.
Yeah.
And then, you know, hopefully we'll get you to the right place.
And you know, that is really a cool name for a program, Sweet Talk.
Yeah, I tell
you know,
you.
that little acronym plays all over the place.
It
So
does.
thank you for that. We're getting very close to the end here. I'd like to ask you, just from a different perspective, for you to kind of share with us. You're still fairly new. You're fresh cost since January.
Right.
And you came to us from a different position. Now you're doing all of this. How's this feel to you? I mean, what do you think about the change of environment, a different school, a different role for yourself? How's this sitting with you?
So, you know, I've gotten asked that question quite a bit from, you know, my friends and family up. You know, how does that change feel? And I say I love the job so much I don't even mind the commute. You know, in fact, it's great. Let me tell you what I love, kind of just about Sweet. Is the thing that I love is that we're so adaptable, so flexible, and so responsive. You know, when we recognize a need, an educational opportunity, you know, whether it be in a business, whether it be, you know, through a conference that we're holding, or whether it's for a need in the community where we recognize, wait a minute, some additional education, instruction, workforce training, something that line would be beneficial to the community here, we can respond to that. And I'm amazed in the 3 months I've been here how quickly that happens. Things don't get mired down in meetings and in ideas. If we come up with a good idea and it goes, we like it. Next thing you know, it's happening. Just like the podcast, just like our construction combines, just like the emergency medicine conference, and some of the other classes that we're doing. So, overall, that has been, in some aspects, the most difficult part of the job because, I'm kind of waiting to get my feet underneath me and we're running on and doing the next thing. But on the other side, I absolutely love that part of the job because we're doing something new every day.
Yeah,
and that's pretty cool. So.
It is. And I agree with you. I think so as well. This is one of the most eclectic positions I've had a chance to be in because we do roll around so much. We touch a lot of organizations. Whether they want professional training, office training, employee training, whether there's somebody who wants conferences. And this morning you and I were on a call with University of Idaho with one of their extension officers up there talking about an ag tech conference. We've done that with them before, but the call is what sets it up. We get a chance to reach out and work with others in the educational community. We work with community. And in addition to all of that, we have customized training that we do too. Yeah. And we have apprenticeships that go along the side. We have continuing ed. We work with lifelong learners, the NKA group. And every one of these could be great future podcast folks as well. So it is so much of a variety that it's enjoyable. We don't get stuck in one thing.
So let me ask you though, why did you want to do the podcast? I mean, let's be honest. When we first approached you with this, the idea of you sitting up here for 20 minutes and having the conversation, you were looking for a lot of other takers for that role. But what
was it that obvious?
Yeah. Who else? I think that you rattled through just about every other name in the office at some point. So what did you decide to do this?
Well, the short answer is I think it's a great way to go ahead and help put the word out on what we're doing. I think it's a great outreach for our community, and I like that a lot. I think the more we do these kinds of things, the more people become aware of us as a resource. And when I talk about community, it's not just local to our college. We're part of the College of Technology, and we do things with them. It's not just our university, and it's really not just our town. It's not just our region. We already find ourselves working with our community in the state, and it can exceed the state. So the community to me is what I think about. And when I think of, hey, this is a podcast that can exceed local, community, regional, state lines, that's very attractive.
Right.
That's getting the word out. That's helping people find something that might be of interest for them in their lives, whether they want to make a career decision, a professional decision, something that helps them with what they're doing. That's what we're supposed to be helping with. And the podcast venue, while new, just kind of at first, a little scary, but at first I'm thinking, this is something we need to try. Yeah. The more things we try, the better. And if it doesn't take off, then we can look back and say, we gave that a shot. But if it takes off and goes forward with this thing, we can go, wow, look what we started.
Sure.
And all of that is part of the growth of any organization.
Right. Well, and I think the other thing cool about it too is look what we're learning.
Right.
You know what I mean? We didn't know how to do this.
No, I forgot the phone number.
I forgot the website for crying out loud. So, but you know what I mean? Point is I think that in itself also kind of just reflects what we are doing. Our adaptability, our ability to do the things that, to adjust, to change to needs, identify those needs. And so, here we are, we're not only are we encouraging that in our community, but we're modeling that in this podcast, I mean, we were like, okay, this is an idea, we're not really sure what we're doing, but we're just going to jump in and do it.
Right. And this is not something that's very difficult, to do, but I do find that, maybe I need to do a little bit more preparation, or maybe I need to stage something a little bit differently. That in itself is a great growth thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also recognizing that none of us knows everything about everything. Here's something new to try.
I know.
It's eclectic. It's different. It's another value added, I hope, to what we're trying here. So I like this. I'm glad we're doing it. I'm glad you talked to me into doing this.
Well, I'm glad you said yes, or I might have had to been the main voice.
That's very possible. We might still roll this around to some of the others out there. There's Sammy out there. There's Jennifer out there. There's Paul out there. We have a whole office full of people who can do something like this. Yeah. So one of them might find something that they really want to talk with others about, And that would be a great opportunity.
Well, and that just brought up another thing too, is look at the great people we got in our office, right? I mean, really, there's probably, I would guess, don't take this wrong, Gary, I bet you there's a lot of other people in our office that could do a better job of this than you and I.
Bet they could.
So, you know what I mean? Not because we're doing it poorly. Oh,
Well, I think that that's our bell, huh?
we need to work on a new bell.
I need to work on how to turn this doggone
Because I'm not
thing
sure,
off.
yeah, that bell might not be the word.
There we go. Okay.
Okay,
So here's a
lesson
lesson
one, new bell.
I
Need a
can,
new bell.
I can see and hear that our time is up. Thanks to Jason Batalden for talking with us today.
Thanks, Gary.
We hope that all of you in the audience have gained a little insight on some things here today. This is an intro piece. Maybe you want to do your own podcast one day. So maybe that'll help you. Maybe you'll want to bring us into your living room or on the drive home. I hope there's something of personal interest, professional interest that you can benefit from. As Jason said, you can find us at cetrain.isu.edu. Please take a few minutes to look around. We have a lot of classes out there, a lot of programs you might be interested in. And the video from this and
The blog.
will be there.
Subscribe to the blog, and you'll get notified when we put new podcast episodes up. So that's a big important thing.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for Sweet Talk.